Okay, hello everyone. I'm busy, hard at work on my entry into this year's Blizzard fan film competition. And so here is a Protoss Zealot, one of the many characters in my Blizzard fan film coming up. And as you can see here from the render of this Zealot, the areas around the side blades and these kind of gemstones that are on him, even if you zoom in, the eyes and stuff, they have kind of this kind of glow effect, kind of glow and glare effect. So I'm going to show you how I accomplished this using the built-in compositor in Blender. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is, okay, let's bring up the properties window. All right, select this guy here and go to the materials. And so let's go ahead and set up the material so that it's going to be usable by the compositor. So I'll select the side blades material, and that's side blades are these big lightsaber type things that the Protoss use. And underneath the shading tab, I set the emit, to a high value. In this case, something very high like 10. So the emit means that this material is going to emit light from inside of itself. So it will be seen even in total darkness. You'll be able to see this just like a light or something, a glowing object like lava or something. To embellish this material, I went ahead into the textures node and I added, for example, a built-in marble texture and a clouds texture. And as you can see here underneath the influence, I set the influence to the emission value as well as some other things like the normal to give it the side blades kind of a disturbed look. And of course I set it to the emission value so that you would get this kind of modeled texture to the side blades, so it's not just one solid block of color. Okay, so we have a material, at least one material here, and that has an emission higher than 0, which is the default. Okay, so we have a material ready to go, so let's go to our camera tab and make sure that our camera is set up to use the compositor correctly. Underneath the camera layer tab, here's layers. You'll see a bunch of layers here. Combine and Z should already be checked. Z is, of course, depth information. Vector you would use to calculate motion blur. UV, I'm going to show you in my tutorial on how I did those aliens from the abyss, that little movie I did a while back. But in this case, we're going to send everything with a high emit value its own channel in the compositor. So I'll just check mark emit. All right, and then let's scroll down under post-processing and make sure the compositing is checkmarked. So now we're ready to use the compositor. So let's go to the node editor. And as you can see here, we have nodes for materials, textures, and compositing. And we have to checkmark use nodes to make sure that it's going to use the compositor. So let me hit shift space over this thing to open it up. Now I've created this whole node thing as a group here. I just band selected a bunch of stuff and went into nodes and grouped them. So once you have a group, you can just go ahead and hit tab to open and close it. So let's take a look at what we did here. The concept is, because we have sent the emit layer, because we have set that, we can separate out the emission value of anything that has a high emit. We can go ahead and blur that separate from the image. Okay, so we're going to add these blur filter, glare filter, and stuff only to the areas of the image that have a high emission value. The rest of the image we're going to do some other compositing with, and then we'll go ahead and at the end we'll mix these things both together with this mix node here. So let's go through it a little bit step by step. I took the emit plug here and I plugged it into a blur filter, and then I plugged that blur filter into a glare filter, and then I plugged that resulting image into a mix node that was set to add. All right. Now I went ahead and I kind of split the image in pieces here. I took the image and I also took the entire image, went ahead and plugged it into, for example, RGB curves, glare, blur. So I did a little bit of processing on it just to sweeten the image up. So I took the that processed image and plugged it into the add node as well. So again, the concept is we're taking the emission values and we're doing some separate processing with those, because if we took this blur node and applied it to the whole image, as you can see, it has a value, a high value, XY value on the blur node of 60 by 60. So if we applied a big blur node to that, to the entire image would get fuzzed out. Okay, so we've taken the emission value, plugged it in, done its own separate processing, and then we've gone ahead, done whatever processing we want to do with the main image, and then we've kind of remixed them at the end using a mix node set to add. Okay, so you can see here, if we zoom in on this blur node, you can see how much the image is being blurred. So obviously we would not want that set up. We would not want that node attached to the main image. Okay, so we've got now we've got a image that is has been processed a little bit, and then I went ahead and finally took the main image and the processed image and mixed them together using another mix node, this time set to mix with a factor of 0.5 in this case. All right. And then the whole kit and caboodle, in the end, you just kind of drag it into the final composite node. And then, of course, once you've done all that, you just render it and you'll get something like that. Okay. Now, it may seem complex at first, but once you've done it once, you pretty much just kind of tweak it from there on for every subsequent item. So basically, you get something that looks good. I'll show you in the next tutorial how you can take this group and save it out and reuse it in other projects, so you don't have to mess with it over and over again. Once you get something that looks nice, you can just go ahead and reuse it. Okay, so in summary, let's go through it one step by step, one bit at a time here. Go to Properties, and for our material that we want to glow, we set a high emission value. Under our camera tab, under the layers, under the render layers, we checkmarked emission. And under post-processing, we checkmarked compositing. Finally, in our node editor, we checked on compositing tab, and we checkmarked use nodes. We took the emission value and split it off into its own kind of node branch here. Send it into a blur filter, a glare filter. Then we finally took the image, sent the main image through its own processing. All right, and in the end, we mixed them all together using a mix node, in this case sent to add, and we took the final processed image and mixed it together with the kind of standard rendered image using another mix node, this time set to mix. All right, and then I took everything that was in there and I just kind of band selected it and I grouped it so that I was just able to have it in one compressed node here. And of course, if you want to edit a group, tab, okay? All right, so hopefully this helps you out. Next tutorial, I'll show you how to reuse this node group in other scenes. So I hope that helps out.